Hello everyone! Today we're gonna talk about brake hacking in iRacing. I'm gonna show you exactly what it is, I'm gonna expose some of the weaknesses behind it, and also I'm gonna give you my personal opinion plus an improved way to use some of the ideas from the brake hacking principle to take it to the next level so that you will still applying your braking techniques, but it's gonna be a bit easier and in the end it will be an advantage. Basically, the idea of brake hack is to limit your upper part of the braking to a certain percentage so that you won't lock up the tires or you won't overheat the tires. That's basically it. So right now, whenever I'm gonna apply the brakes, in GT3s for example, a lot of guys are using 80% to brake. Not more, not less. Because at 80% brake pressure, you're getting almost all the advantages of braking hard on the heavy braking zones, plus you're avoiding the downsides of overheating the tires and having the ABS kicked in. So right now, if I'm gonna apply the brakes, I'm holding them as hard as I can and I have 80%. You see, I'm struggling to keep 80%. So my brake percentage doesn't go more than 80%. To do that, you just need to change a value in your pedal software. A lot of pedals right now, even not pedals that are higher end, comes with a software in which you can change it. For example, in my pedals, I'm running the Husingveld and I have this tab here with curve type on the braking, and on the left side you see the input and on the right side you see the output that you get. So at 100% braking, I'm getting 80% pressure. If I'm gonna change it from the software at 100% pressure, I'm getting now 85. So that's how you can achieve it. If you don't have this in your pedal, you can still do it. There are guides on YouTube on how you can change a file in iRacing and basically end up with the same thing that the software from the pedal is doing. That's how you can arrive to it. Now, is it any good? That's the question. Well, it depends. It depends. That's the topic that I want to touch in this video. It's good, but it's not the best, right? Because right now with 80% braking, yes, you're not hitting the ABS, you're not overheating the tires, but you're cutting yourself short in two areas. One is the technique under braking, because you will, by braking like this, you will basically slam the brake all the way to 100% to get the 80 in the sim, and you're not really modulating in the upper percentages. So you're gonna, in a heavy braking zone, if you're gonna do this, you will end up with this shape. So keeping 80 and now trailing. See? But at the threshold, there's no modulation. So you're skipping that 80, but you generally won't do this modulation, going up and down, playing at that fine grip limit, which is a disadvantage. This is one of the disadvantages because you will basically brake in heavy braking zone like an on-off switch. Heavy braking zone, okay, on. Then you go off and modulate in the lower percentages. And on the initial braking phase, you will lose a bit of time. So it's not the best because you will lose a bit of time because you will not stay at the edge grip limit. You will probably overslow the car a bit under initial braking. And overall, regarding technique, if you're gonna jump to other cars, what's gonna happen? You will try to do the same. But if you do the same in an open wheeler, for example, this won't work. You can't brake like that in cars that have a lot of downforce. So in terms of technique, it's not gonna be the best. You will cut yourself a bit short, even though the advantage that you will gain, especially for beginners, is gonna offset this disadvantage in the short end, especially if they're driving only GTs. The second biggest downside is that sometimes you will need to brake more than 80%. Why? Because something might just happen in a race. You might need to stop the car sooner, even though you will damage your tires, even though you will overheat the tires, even though the ABS will kick in and it's not optimal. it will still save you sometimes, because the car will be capable to brake just a bit better, just a few percentages better by holding more pressure initially. What I ended up with was something that, in my opinion, is even better, and it offsets a bit the disadvantages. And I don't think that I'm the only one that has thought about it. I haven't searched for it. Probably if I will search for what I did, I will find it on forums, on Reddit. It's not rocket science. To me, it made perfectly sense to do this. We're gonna switch to open wheels, to F3. This is a car that I've driven a lot. I know it like the back of my hand, and I was using this to be faster. So in short, this is how I did it. This is how I improved the brake hack, or how I used it in a more logical way, if that makes sense. So with this car, specifically with F3, you rarely can go past 90% brake pressure, because if you're gonna pick like 95, the car is gonna be super unstable. F3 brakes so harsh because of the brake cylinders that it's almost impossible to hit 100%. So for sure, I don't need 100% braking on this car. It's not usable. So if I will narrow the braking window, I can be more precise in a narrower window. That makes absolute sense, since I wasn't using that last 10% anyways with this car. The last 15%, I would dare to say. So because I know that I'm not using that part of the pedal, that was a disadvantage on its own. So if I would just set it to, let's say, 80% with this car, we just discussed, there are some other disadvantages. So what I did is the following, and this was my procedure, my protocol to set my braking pressure for a given track. So what I did is simple. I was using Garage 61 to see the faster laps that people have driven in this car. It's a coincidence now that the world record on Garage 61, it's me. So I have my lap here. It's a 209.2, and what I did was looking at the first guys, the first 4 or 5 guys. Of course, it depends a lot on the track conditions, but generally looking at 5Ks, 8Ks, 3Ks, 4Ks, generally people that have a bit more experience, I would say, and analyzing their laps. So pressing here, create new analysis, and then looking on this to see what was their peak pressure. So in my lap, my peak pressure was around 80 or something. I don't remember exactly, but the peak was around 80 something. So what I did and what I do, let's say it's 82. Let's say the peak pressure is 82. It doesn't matter what value it is. It's a value that a guy will have in his lap. I'm looking at his value and I'm adding 10% more. So if the 82 was the maximum peak pressure that he used, I'm going now to my software and I'm setting it to 92. So with 92, I will never brake to 92, ideally, if I'm hot lapping. But if there's an incident, if I just need to stop the car in time, if I want on purpose to lock up the tires for some reason, I can do that. So it's important to be able to do that. And in short, that was my approach, setting it a bit higher, still not using 100%. 100% will be a disadvantage in all the cars except cars that have crazy amount of downforce, F1, Super Formula, the prototypes, you need 100% initially there, but in other cars, you don't need to brake initially to 100%. So it made sense to me to reduce it so that I can modulate better the smaller interval, but still be able to use a bit more braking if I needed to. And also, I was not braking and holding the peak and then dropping it, so I wasn't braking mechanically like an on-off switch, especially with F3, that the braking force is dynamic because you're losing downforce, we're braking. So I was still applying the proper braking techniques, but I was still having some advantages from the brake hack, right? This is it in short. It shouldn't be more complex than it actually is. It's very simple. You look at the lap, you see, especially it's important if you can look at a guy that knows how to drive properly. So let's say you find a driver, you follow that driver, you see his lap, you compare the telemetry, you see his initial peak pressure, let's call it, it's 82, 81, and you're adding a bit to it. Maybe not 10%, maybe 10% is an exaggeration. Maybe you want to be even more precise with gaining more out of this. Let's add 5% more. So you will brake maximum at 86. Now you have 86, now you have a bit of headroom, and from here you just do laps, you get used to it. You will be probably faster by doing this if you weren't doing before. I'm not trying here to push this brake hack or limiting your brake pedal to you to the point that it will sound like I'm encouraging this. I just think that it's useful. I think in the end, if you get used to braking and using all the interval, the 100% as well as you limiting it, it's gonna be the same if you just put time into it. So if you're not able to do that because of your pedal, or if you just don't want to mess with it because you think it's gonna affect your mind-muscle connection, or maybe it will take you longer to adapt, that's perfectly fine. As long as you learn to brake properly, even with 100%, it will work. However, as I talk with some people from esports in iRacing, I don't want to make a presumption based on what I've found and what I've been told, but at least some of them, let's call it like that, at least some of them are not using the full 100% because it will put them at a real disadvantage against people that can be a bit more efficient under initial braking. So it's up to you. For me, I think the system works fine. I think I will adapt it a bit more to be even more precise, but in the end, I know that this can have some values given that you know how to adapt it to your own. That was it. That was the main idea. That was the video. If you liked it, drop it a like. If you want to stay around here for more videos, I'm planning to do more track guides. I'm planning to do more in-depth videos on some topics that I kind of like. Just feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.